Incense cedar, Liberaceus dicronius. The incense cedar is another of the giants, quite generally distributed throughout the portion of the forest without exclusively occupying any considerable area, or even making extensive groves that extends to about 5,000 feet on the warmer hillsides and reaches the climate most congenial to it about from 3,000 to 4,000 feet, growing vigorously at this elevation on all kinds of soil, and in particular it is capable of enduring more moisture about to its roots than any of its companions, excepting only the sequoias. The warmest specimens are about 150 feet high and 7 foot in diameter. The bark is brown and a singularly rich tone, very attractive to artists, and the foliage is tinted with a warmer yellow than any of that of evergreen in the wood. Casting your eye over the general forest from ridge top, the color alone of its spiry summits is sufficient to identify it in any company. In youth, say up to the age of 70 or 80 years, no other tree forms so strictly tapered a cone from top to bottom. The branches swoop outward and downward in bold curves, excepting the younger ones near the top, which aspire while the lowest droop to the ground, and all spread out in flat ferny plumes, beautifully fronded and imbricated upon one another. As it becomes older, it grows strikingly irregular and picturesque. Large special branches put out all the right angles from the trunk, form big, stubborn elbows, and then shoot up parallel with the axis. Very old trees are usually dead at the top, the main axis protruding above ample masses of green plumes, gray and lichen covered, and drilled full of acorn holes by the woodpeckers. The plumes are exceedingly beautiful. No wavering fern fronds and shady dell is more unreservedly beautiful in form and texture, or half so inspiring in color and spicy fragrance. In its prime, the whole tree is thatched with them, so that they shed off rain and snow like a roof, making fine mansions for storm-bound birds and mountaineers. But if you could see the Lycurgus in all his glory, you must go to the woods in winter. Then it is laden with myriads of four-sided staminate cones, about the size of wheat grains, winter wheat producing golden tinge, and forming a noble illustration of nature's immortal vigor and virility. The fertile cones are about 3/4 of an inch long, borne on the outside of the plumy branches, where they serve to enrich still more surpassing beauty of this grand winter blooming goldenrod. White silver fir, Abies concolor. We come now to the most regularly planted of all the main forest belts, composed exclusively of two noble firs, A. concolor and A. magnifica. It extends with no marked interruption for 450 miles, an elevation of from 5,000 to nearly 9,000 feet above the sea. In its youth, A. concolor is a charmingly symmetrical tree with branches regularly whorled in level collars around its whitish gray axis, which terminate in a strong, hopeful shoot. The leaves are in two horizontal rows along branch slits that commonly are less than 8 years old, forming handsome plumes pinnated like the fronds of ferns. The cones are grayish-green when ripe, cylindrical, about from 3 to 4 inches long by 1.5, 2 inches wide, and straight upright on the upper branches. Full-grown trees favorably situated as to soil and exposure are about 200 feet high and a 5 or 6 feet high in diameter near the ground. Though larger specimens are by no means rare, as old age creeps on, the bark becomes rougher and grayer, the branches lose their exact regularity. Many are snow-bent or broken off, and the main axis often becomes durable or otherwise irregular from accidents and terminal bud or shoot. But throughout all vicissitudes of its life on the mountains, come what may, the noble grandeur of the species is patent to every eye. Magnificent silver fir or red fir, Albius magnifica. This is the most charmingly symmetrical of all the giants of the Sierra woods, far surpassing its companion species in its respect, and easily distinguished from it by the purplish-red bark, which is also more closely furrowed than that of the white, and its by larger cones, more regularly whorled and fronded branches, and by its leaves, which are shorter and grow all around the branchlets and point upwards. In size, these two silver firs are about equal. The magnifica perhaps a little taller. Specimens from 200 to 200 feet high are not rare on well-ground moraine soil at an elevation as from 7,500 to 8,500 feet above the sea level. The largest that I measured stands back 3 miles from the brink of the north wall of the Yosemite Valley. 15 years ago it was 240 feet high, with a diameter of a little more than 5 feet. Happy the man with the freedom and the love to climb one with the superb tree in full flower and fruit. How admirable the forest work of nature is then to be seen, as one makes his way through the midst of the broad fronded branches, all arranged in exquisite order around the trunk, like the whorled leaves of the lilies, and each branch and branchlet about as strictly pinnate as the most symmetrical fern frond. The staminate cones are grown straight downward from the underside of the young branches in lavish profusion, making fine purple clusters amid the grayish-green foliage, and on the topmost branches the fertile cones are set firmly on end like small casks. They are about 6 inches long, 3 feet wide, covered with a fine gray down and streaked with crystal balsam that seemed to have been poured upon every cone from above. Both the silver firs live 250 years or more above when the conditions about them are at all favorable. Some venerable patriarch may often be seen, heavily storm-marked, lowering in severe majority above the rising generations, with a protecting grove of saplings pressing close around his feet, each dressed with such loving care that not a leaf seems wanting. Other companies are made up of trees with near the prime of life, exquisitely harmonized to one another in form and gesture, as if nature had culled them one by one with nice discrimination from all the rest of the woods. It is from this tree, called red fir by the lumbermen, that mountaineers always cut broths to sleep on when they are so fortunate as to be within its limits. 2 rows of plushy branches overlapping along the middle, and a crescent of smaller plumes mixed with ferns and flowers for a pillow, form the very best bed imaginable. The essence of the pressed leaves seemed to fill every pore of one's body. The sounds of falling water make a soothing hush, while the spaces between the grand spires afford noble openings through which to gaze dreamily into the starry night. Even in the matter of sinuous ease, any combination of cloth, steel springs, and feathers seemed vulgar in comparison. The fir woods are delightful sauntering grounds at any time of year, but most so in autumn. Then the noble trees are hushed in hazy light and dream with balsam. The cones are ripe, and the seeds, with their ample purple wings, mottle the air with flocks of butterflies, while deer feeding in flowery openings between the groves and birds and squirrels in the branches make a pleasant stir, which enriches the deep brooding calm of the wilderness and gives a peculiar impressiveness to every tree. No wonder the enthusiastic Douglas went wild with joy when he first discovered the species. Even in the Sierra, where so many noble evergreens challenge admiration, we linger among these colossal firs with fresh love and extol their beauty again and again, as if no other in the world could henceforth claim our regard. It is in these woods that the great granite domes rise that are so striking and characteristic of a feature of the Sierra, and here we too find the best of the garden meadows. They lie level on the tops of the dividing ridges, or sloping on the sides of them, embedded in the magnificent forest. Some of these meadows are in great parts occupied by Verodrumbula, which here grows rank and tall, with boat-shaped leaves and 13 inches long and 12 inches wide, ribbed like those of the Seripedium. Columbine grows on the drier margins with tall larkspurs and lupines waist-deep in grasses and sedges. Several species of Castilia also make a bright show in the beds of blue and white violets and daisies, but the glory of these forest meadows is a lily, L. parvum. The flowers are orange-colored and quite small, the smallest I have ever seen of the true lilies, but it is showy nevertheless, for it is 7 to 8 feet high and waves magnificent racemes of 10 to 20 flowers or more above one's head, while it stands out in the open ground with just enough grass and other plants about it to make a fringe for its feet and show it off to its best advantage. A dry spot a little way back from the margin of the silver fir lily garden makes a glorious campground, especially where the slope is towards the east and marks open a view of the distant peaks along the summit of the range. The tall lilies are brought forward in all glory by the light of the blazing campfire relieved against the outer darkness, and the nearest of the pine trees and their whorled branches tower above you like larger lilies, and the sky seen through the garden opening seems one vast meadow of white lily stars. In the morning everything is joyous and bright. The delicious purple of dawn changes softly to daffodil yellow and white, while the sunbeams pouring through the passes between the peaks give a margin of gold to each of them. Then the spires of the firs and the hollows of the middle region catch the glow, and your camp grove is filled with lights. The birds began to stir, seeking sunny branches on the edges of the meadow for sun baths after the gold night, and looking for their breakfast. Every one of them has Esha's lily and is charmingly arrayed. Innumerable insects begin to dance. The deer withdraw from the open glades and ridge tops to the leafy hiding places in the chaparral. The flowers open and straighten their petals as the dew vanishes. Every pulse beats high, every life cell rejoices. The very rocks seem to tingle with life and God is felt brooding over everything great and small.